take this adherence for this meeting of the Hamilton Area Committee on the 21st of June 2023. I can see that we have present Councillor Carmichael. Councillor Chalmers, yep, I can see that you're also present. Also present today are Councillors Clark, Johnson Dempsey, Devlin, Councillor Dewar. No, I'm not seeing you. Also present today are Councillors Donnelly, Falconer and Handybod. Councillor Horn. Okay, I'm not seeing you. And I can see that Councillor Dewar has now joined the meeting. Councillor Hose. No. Councillor Keat. Apologies, thank you. Also present today are Councillors McCreary and MacDonald. Councillor McGeever? No. Councillor McLachlan? No. Councillor Nelson? Nope, not seeing you. Councillor Razak? No. Also present, apologies, thank you. Also present today are Councillors Ross and Thompson. Councillor Toner? Oh, I can see that you have joined remotely. Also in attendance today are a number of officers, and with that I'll pass you back to the Chair to commence today's business. Thank you, Chair.
Item 1, declaration of interests. Have any declaration of interest? No. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 6. Do we agree to approve the minutes? Seconded. Item 3, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Annual Performance Activity Report, presentation by Station Commander Chris Burns.
Thanks, Chair. My name is Chris Burns. I'm a Station Commander for Hamilton Fire Station. Provide the committee with a report on the activity within this area from the period 2022 to 2023. The report covers the local area plan and the 6 key priorities that were set out within that. And what we've done is we've provided a report on the activity that's happened within this area over the last year. Are you able to share that? So if you could move it on to the, I think it might be the 3rd page down. Perfect. So this report here shows all deliberate primary fires within our local area. As you can see from the report, we've seen a decrease in deliberate primary fires in 2022-23 compared with the previous 2 years. This has decreased from 65 down to 46 this year, last year. All deliberate primary fire locations are passed to Police Scotland on a regular basis in order that information can feed into their community intelligence and help identify trends. As you can see, it's broken down into wards, and our watches within the station have been designated an individual ward, and they identify areas of any problems and feedback to myself, and we then raise this through the local problem solving groups to prevent reoccurrence. The next slide basically shows it's all deliberate secondary fires on the trend through the last 3 years. Again, we've seen a decrease in secondary fires in 2022-23 compared to the previous 2 years. This is from 375 down to 348. Again, a number of wards have seen figures increase, which is reflective of the information that we receive from partners in regards to antisocial behaviour in these areas. Our crews and community action team continue to monitor for hotspots and carry out engagement at local schools and areas of known activity. We look to identify areas of illegal fly tipping and liaise with the local environment teams to arrange uplift. And again, the local watches, they identify any areas within that and feed it back through myself. So the next one. So the next slide is accidental dwelling fires. Accidental dwelling fires have decreased from 84 down to 82 in the last year. SFRS is an ongoing programme of fire safety engagement and education to contribute to the reduction of these. As well as TV, radio and local newspapers, the service utilises social media to help promote fire safety within our local communities. We carry out home fire safety visits to ensure all properties have a means of detection within their property, and we've carried out 651 visits within the last year. We're involved in a large number of initiatives with key partners and actively encourage at-risk households to engage with ourselves. We work closely with social work, housing and other various partners to ensure that any members of the local community who are identified as risk are fully supported and care packages are put in place to keep them safe. Following all domestic incidents of domestic properties, we will carry out a post-domestic incident response, and this is to offer advice and reassurance to property affected along with the surrounding properties. So the next slide shows all accidental other building fires. So 2022-23 has seen an increase in this type of incident compared to the previous year. Should be noted that the previous years are covering the COVID period where a lot of these buildings hadn't been occupied at that time. Should we attend any incident in any other property other than a dwelling, we will complete a risk assessment failure form which is passed to our fire safety enforcement officers in Lanarkshire. Fire safety enforcement officers will then in turn provide advice and guidance on fire safety issues or carry out a formal post-fire audit, depending on the incident. Fire safety enforcement officers within Lanarkshire also carry out fire safety audits on a rolling programme in high-risk premises such as sleeping risk and high-risk commercial and industrial premises, ensuring that the responsible person is complying with their statutory duties. Our crews also carry out operational intelligence visits to these so that they are fully aware of any risk within their local area. So the next slide is showing all fatal fire casualties within the area. Fortunately, we had one fire fatality in 2022-23, which was in the Blantyre area. Following this, a post-domestic incident response was carried out by local crews to provide reassurance to the neighbouring properties and offer a home fire safety visit to anyone who required it. A case conference was also held with social work and local partners following this incident. So the next slide is non-fatal fire casualties. So there's a significant decrease in non-fatal fire casualties compared to the previous year, decreasing from 23 to 8. Each fire casualty results in a reporting procedure followed by the operational crews, which informs the station commander any details, circumstances and extent of injury after each of these incidents. Following every incident of domestic dwelling, our crews will carry out a PDI or offer reassurance and home fire safety visits should they require it. We work closely with social work and housing and various other partners to ensure that any members of the local community are identified as risk are fully supported and care packages are put in place. The figures above highlight the good work being carried out by SFRS and our partners. So the next slide is special service RTCs. So the number of road traffic collisions in 2022-23 has remained at the same level as 21-22. RTCs remain a priority in Lanarkshire, and SFRS works closely with partner agencies to reduce the risk on our roads, and we deliver education programmes to assist in prevention, such as weekly virtual reality road safety input to our fire outreach groups, local youth groups and colleges. We also deliver road safety presentations to local high schools and continuing our communication and engagement with various social media campaigns. So the next slide is showing special service fatal and non-fatal casualties. You can see there's been a significant increase to the number of incidents, rising from 47 to 66 in 2023. So as previously stated, we continue to work with partner agencies to reduce the number of casualties for special service incidents. The figures above show half of these incidents came from RTCs, but we're now seeing a significant increase in requests for assistance from partner agencies to assist with gaining entry to properties for emergency medical incidents, and we'll continue to do this. So the next slide shows the UFAS, which is unwanted fire activation So we're turning out to these. So an increase in activity from the previous year, moving from 462 instances in 2021 to 22 to 544 in 22-23. Should be noted that our response to fire alarms in commercial business and workplace premises is changing from 1st of July this year. Every year we attend around 28,000 automatic fire alarms call-outs to commercial businesses and workplace premises each year. So from 1st of July 2023, we'll stop attending AFA call-outs to commercial businesses and workplace premises such as factories, offices, shops and leisure facilities, unless a fire has been confirmed. Operation Control colleagues will now be asking anyone who reports a fire alarm to check whether there is an actual fire or signs of fire before sending the nearest response. This change does not apply to sleeping premises such as hospitals, care homes, hotels, domestic dwellings, and this change comes about following our public consultation in 2021. And that just concludes the report. If there's any questions.
Thanks very much for that, Chris. Any questions, comments?
Councillor Thompson.
Bert Thompson? Oh, we can hear you. Sorry about that.
Listen, first of all, my thanks, and I hope he passes this on to his colleagues for the invaluable service the fire service do. And I'd love to see a day where we the people still represented on that board.
I've lost you.
It's disappointing that Blantyre there seems to quite a wee bit of like fires getting set, etc., and that fatality. But hopefully we can move on for there and things will be a lot better. Can I just ask the Commander his views on the future there regarding personnel? Have we got a lot of people retiring soon or elderly, or are we still got a good squad there and things are in order for the future?
If you just press your mic.
Thanks, Councillor, for the question. I'll pick up. I'm Area Commander Jim Quinn, and the local senior officer for the full of Lanarkshire, so I cover both North and South Lanarkshire. As far as the attributes that are shared between the staffing model, there pretty much has been just an ongoing recruitment, which means that there is that mixture. I suppose the difficulty that we've had most recently following COVID was they were having to recruit higher numbers than we would normally would. Given the fact that during that COVID period we were only able to bring in a certain amount of staff because, a certain amount of recruits because of obviously social distancing or the physical distancing piece. So there is higher numbers certainly in the kind of last few months or the last kind of probably the last year or so I would suggest. But there is still a skills crossover, and we're comfortable with the level of skills that we have. We've also got ongoing training programmes which upskills a number of our staff as well, one of which is actually just begun in the full of Lanarkshire, which is that kind of, I suppose, the realistic training piece. So rather than if you pass any fire station, you'll see on a regular basis that firefighters will be out the back and in the drill yard and doing that kind of preparatory work for instance. But what we're also looking to do is introduce that into the local communities as well. So we have identified a number of areas locally that we are now carrying out training within the community. And as I say, it's about that realistic piece. So we're comfortable with where we are, I suppose, which hopefully answers the question for you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Bert. Councillor Mary Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for all your hard work, and I'd like you to take that thanks back to the depot, to all firefighters. They do a tremendous job on our behalf, and I would only warmly like to thank them for that. Also, we've got a community hub in Hillhouse, and unfortunately you've got to our resources where we stock things, and there was a fire there just yesterday, I think it was, or last night, which had a big impact on the hub because it destroyed food that was going to be going to the vulnerable today. And that was really unfortunate. Now, that's not your fault, but you were there very quickly and you did put the fire out. And I can only thank you on behalf of the community for doing that. It was really helpful. But it shows you the downside as well of fires when they do happen within the community. And that's really taking the heart out of a lot of people who work very, very tirelessly to serve our community in the cafes. So it is unfortunate, but they've picked the reins up and they've opened the cafe today. So that was good. And businesses rallied round and provided food that they could actually cook today at the hub. So it didn't stop it and didn't take the heart out of it. But just to finally, and also I noticed in your special service in Hamilton West and Ernock, you've had 2 road traffic collisions during the year. I don't know if it's appropriate to give me any details of that or not, or send it by email. The other point I'd like to say is that, is there anything that we can do as elected officials by communicating with the community in any way that we can to help you, by the schools or, or community groups getting you in to speak to community groups? Would be quite useful, I think, too. I'd just like your opinion on that. Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Mary.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much indeed for the questions, Chair. I'll pick them up. So as far as the RTCs is concerned, I've not got the finer detail of that here. I don't know if Chris has, but we can pick that up off table. I think one of the positives that did come across in the report talks about the fact that we are doing that kind of skills programme. Certainly, I don't know if it's specific to these examples, but certainly what we're finding is that RTCs are involving quite a number of younger drivers and newer drivers. And one of the things that we're doing is picking that up via the schools. So we are into schools with the virtual reality headsets, which really kind of starts to look at what the hazards are and what the impact of RTCs are. So there is an education programme that is going on. The elected support, absolutely. I think I'll be honest with you, I've been here since September, covering both North and South Lanarkshire. And I think the support we get from the elected members is really, really positive. But I do think you're absolutely right as far as the community boards is concerned. If there is an opportunity for my team to be in and presenting to the boards, I would absolutely welcome that. And probably just to kind of finish off, and happy for you to come back, but just to finish off and say thank you for the kind words that you said about the response. Ultimately, we don't want to respond to incidents because ultimately that's got a negative impact within the local community. So our panacea would absolutely be that we don't go to any fires, and it's all about that education piece. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not the reality, and on occasions we are having to respond. I think, again, if you look at the positive messaging though within the report that's been given, even when we're attending when we're attending fires, they generally are getting picked up in the early stages. So if you look at the kind of percentage of actual damage where we've had to actually take water from the appliance and start applying it to the fire, etc., they're being kept to a minimum because of the early warnings with automatic fire alarms, etc. So there is a positive piece in there as well. But so I say happy to answer anything further. Chair.
Can I come back briefly, Chair? See your report that you've submitted today, is that on slides? Because I know you had put slides up.
That's a copy of the slide.
No, so it's on a Word document, but that can be shared between everyone as well. That's fine.
Because if we get copies of that as councillors, then we could share that with the groups that we're involved with and ask them to invite you along to a local meeting or whatever.
Definitely, and we feed this back to the local problem solving groups as well. So we do this on a quarterly basis as well, and they get that information. Thanks.
Leslie McDonald, councillor.
Thanks, Chair. 2 or 3 things, apart from the fact I think knowing former firemen, as I have in the past.
Too much information.
Careful.
I didn't say in which sense, but never mind. Can I just say that yes, what you do is amazing. I find it incredible that all the supposed sensible people are leaving the building and you're rushing in. So a lot to be said there. I do think, see whatever people think, certainly the firemen are way up there with the general public. One of the questions I've got is, we now have hardwired smoke alarms in all houses. Do you think that's going to make a difference to the amount of call-outs that you're going to get, or not? And secondly, more importantly, I was here a few weeks ago when the fire alarm was sounded and we all ended up outside, and it took 20 minutes before an appliance arrived. And I know it didn't come from Hamilton. Apparently it came from Bellshill, so they said at the time. Is that because of the fact that you're having to phone now to somebody, or get somebody to pick up the phone and say, yes, it's definitely a fire? I don't know. The thing is, this is a huge building. The fire engine drove past it at a great rate of knots and had to go down to Peacock Cross and turn to come back. That's why I'm saying, and they certainly didn't come from Hamilton Fire Station. So, I am also concerned about the fact that we're going to be losing. And I know, Jim, I've had your letter. You're losing an appliance, and that's of great concern to us, and everyone feels the same. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions, councillor. First of all, the last part, I'll give some more detail on that just in a wee second when we finish this agenda item, and happy to take any questions on that as well. As far as your first couple of points, is hardwire smoke detection making a difference? Absolutely. One of the things that we were finding in the past was that people removing batteries from them and utilising that battery for elsewhere, etc. Some not being in that hardwired system, so it wasn't giving you the kind of dual approach. So as an example, if you stay in a house just now which is an upstairs and a downstairs, the upstairs will be linked to the downstairs. So if you're sleeping up near one of the rooms upstairs and there's a fire in the kitchen, as an example, the heat detector will pick up on that. I'll link it to the other ones, and you'll get a very, very early warning at that early stage on that outside your bedroom. So absolutely is making a difference, and will continue to make a difference. The UFAS, so that's the unwanted fire alarm signal stuff that Chris touched upon earlier on, and our response to that. So I suppose the kind of consultation piece for us was done in 2021. To put in a bit of context, it has always been the responsibility of the duty holder to carry out the initial investigation. So legislation hasn't changed since 2005. Whereby the fire service have attended it and they will provide that level of support, but the responsibility remains with that duty holder. What we're now really asking is that the duty holder carries out that responsibility. And again, we've been engaging with all areas of businesses. You go into our website currently, the front page is awash with information as far as how you kind of work through this process. So it is really now incumbent upon the duty holder to carry out that initial investigation. And then following that initial investigation, ultimately what will happen is that if there is a fire, then we'll be informed of it and we'll respond accordingly. You've obviously got that kind of delay of description. It is only a small delay, but you've got that currently anyway, given the fact that a system's got to, if it is linked to somewhere, will inform a person, a kind of call centre type idea. They'll gather that information and they'll determine what it's the contact to our control, who will then mobilise. So it's kind of quite a complex route to get through to get an appliance turning out anyway in the kind of first instance. And as I say, ultimately what we're doing is the duty holder will carry out that responsibility in the first instance. And if there is an absolute, if we're informed that there is a fire, then we will respond. The caveat to that, and again, I know Chris touched upon it within the report as well, is that ultimately at the moment there's no change to sleeping risks. So where there is a sleeping risk, so whether it be care homes, whether it be hospitals, etc., you're still getting that initial response that would always have been the case. And as I say, ultimately on the end of the call for support. But we have been working through that with a range of, obviously your kind of commercial type proprietors over the last kind of year or so, just with a view to implement this in July. And the final part of that, sorry to go on, but the final part of that would be that ultimately that will free up some capacity within our own organisation to be able to do some of the stuff that we would like to kind of focus more on, being that community engagement piece that we've talked about, and just kind of elements of other areas of that kind of business, if you like. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Sorry? Sure.
Sorry, I don't want you to think it was a criticism, by the way, about the 20 minutes. It just shows you how quickly things can happen. But yes, it's good to know. I remember many years ago being at school and be quiet, Falky, and having visits from firemen, and we went to the local station at the time. And it was great. Everybody enjoyed it. The amount of people, amount of kids, young people who came out of there that wanted to be firemen or firewomen was incredible. So I think the more you do that, the more you're going to encourage, not primary kids, but some of your secondary. But yes, thank you very much for that. Thanks.
Thanks for that.
Hi, I think it's me. I think I missed my introduction, but am I on?
Say it again.
That's you, Kenny.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to thank the two officers for coming along and for the presentation, and obviously all the colleagues for the work they do and keeping us safe and saving us when we need them. My question is really about as previously mentioned there, the loss of, I believe, one appliance. A community count. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Kenny, that's coming up in the next item, the urgent business.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be a presentation on that.
Oh, a separate presentation. All right. Okay then.
Is that
Right,
okay?
Okay. I'll speak then. Thanks.
Right, thank
You say it again.
you. Councillor Helen Toner.
Thanks, Chair. Hope you can hear me okay. No, I don't have any questions for the fire service. I'd just like to personally thank them while I'm here. I've had the misfortune of having to call them twice in the last sort of few months. One was just for a bin fire in the ward, but actually the other one was for quite a serious lorry unit fire on a yard in Blantyre, and the swiftness of the fire service turning up and actually getting the fire under control. And it's not for lack of trying. The lads on the yard were trying to get this fire under control, but these two appliances came in and they were just in and out in jig time. So it's just a sort of personal gratitude to them and all the hard work that they do. It's very much appreciated. Thanks very much.
Councillor Andy Carmichael.
Thanks, Chair. Just to echo what most of my colleagues have already said, I would like to express my sincere thanks on behalf of the community in my ward in Larkhall for the excellent service that your personnel provide. As Leslie mentioned there about that incident, it was occurred here 2 weeks ago. I just want to make the record straight, Chair, that it wasn't my fault this time. Because in the past, over the last 5 years, I like my toast well fired. But unfortunately, the cook exceeded that. As a result, she burnt them and would evacuate the building twice. So now I've been banned from ordering toast. But anyway, gentlemen, sincere thanks to you and your personnel for the excellent service you provide. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Andy. Could I just ask a wee question? In a previous existence in working in social work in Bells Hill, regular service users, elderly, frail, would get a visit for the fire service, and putting recommendations were quite helpful. But one of the better recommendations we had came from an OT, and it was regarding an elderly gentleman, frail elderly, and it was he kept lost his house keys. And what the OT recommended is getting him one of these screw turns in the door. Do you recommend that as well? So he doesn't need to put a key in, only needs to turn it left or right.
Again, generally, Chair, they're done a kind of case by case, so it really is dependent whether the layout of any particular property looks like. It's certainly an option that is available, but I suppose we need to do that in conjunction with the police, because there's obviously that kind of make sure the property is secure, etc. as well. So that's usually like in a joint visit. They would look at something like that, following a request for social work generally.
Right. Thanks for that. Any other questions, comments? So thanks very much for that report. We've now got the item of urgent business. Jim Quinn, Watch Commander, to provide an update to members. Jim.
First of all, thank you, Chair. And the fact that you've just demoted me 3 ranks here within the strike of a pen. I'm sure my colleague sitting to my right-hand side here is absolutely loving that fact, and we'll feed that back. So I'm Area Commander Jim Quinn. And as I say, probably just to kind of provide you a wee bit of context prior to moving into today's event, or today's item that I've listed on here. I am responsible for the kind of full of Lanarkshire, so I sit across both local authorities, being North Lanarkshire and South Lanarkshire. Underneath myself sits obviously my colleague to my right hand side here, so we've got a station commander who's responsible for each of the stations within Lanarkshire. Chris on my right here is responsible for Hamilton. So hence the reason that he was feeding via the report today. And then really just a kind of thank you. I appreciate that your time is absolutely really valuable, and you are, I'm sure, pressed for time on a regular basis. So the fact that you managed to fit me into your very busy agenda today, I couldn't be any more appreciative of. And it's really just about providing you, I suppose, a bit of information and a bit of background surrounding the changes that will take place within the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service via that strategic service review programme that we've kind of touched upon earlier on there. So the changes that are being made as far as response models concerned are part of that strategic service review programme, but ultimately the other part of that is that they will help in resolving some of the financial challenges that I'm sure we're not alone in facing. So that's the kind of first part of it. Probably to give you a bit of background, SFRS for year 23-24 received a flat cash budget, and ultimately there's challenges along the way that come with that. In fact, I don't know if any may have seen the account that the Chief Officer made to the Justice Committee at the beginning of the year, and it really talked about making difficult decisions and about the fact that given that 80% of our budget when it comes in is used upon salaries, I suppose it's not a huge jump to suggest where the savings would need to be made should the need arise depending on budgets, etc. So there was absolute challenges in there. I think what the Chief did say, and I think that kind of resonated particularly well, is that we're all facing these challenges just now, and ultimately any changes that we would make to a response model would be based upon risk, so a kind of risk-based, and making sure that it is a risk-based approach, and that the risk would be as minimal as we could possibly make that. So that's kind of a bit of background to it, I suppose. So in September of this year, there will be the temporary withdrawal of 10 appliances. So that's 10 fire engines. Excuse me getting into fire brigade lingo, and if I do so, feel free to tell me so. So if I use the word appliance against talking about fire engines, so there is two fire engines in Hamilton Station as it stands. One of them, come September the 4th this year, will be temporarily removed. And that'll, as I say, there's 10 being removed across the service. So from a national perspective, there's 10 being removed. The impact to South Lanarkshire is that appliance in Hamilton I've just alluded to will be removed. There is no other impact. I will go on to talk about the kind of wider piece as far as Lanarkshire is concerned in a wee second. But certainly from a South Lanarkshire perspective, that is the only appliance that we're looking at removing. And as I say, it is a temporary withdrawal at this moment in time. And ultimately, again, that is based on knowledge, information. I'll get into some of the detail of that in a wee second. But as I say, suffice to say that it was based on risk, but ultimately we'll meet some of the challenges that we're facing. Safety of our staff continues and always will be, and the safety of our local community remains paramount. If you'll indulge me for a second, I probably sound like a wee boy here, but I'm from Hamilton, and I certainly would not be I'd be very, very uncomfortable with coming here to you today with a proposal to remove an appliance from Hamilton, if indeed it affected, and I thought it affected the risk, or significantly increased the risk that was in the Hamilton area. So that's probably my wee boy bit by the way. And as I say, I'm very, very passionate about the local area and very, very proud to be in the position that I am and being able to influence some of the challenges that we're seeing. I suppose for a level of comfort, although that fire engine's removed, that doesn't mean that any response that you'll get within a local area will be reduced. It won't. So we work to what's called predetermined attendances, and that ultimately means that depending on what the risk is and what we're being mobilised to, will depend on how many fire engines and what level of specialist resources are required for that. So if I can use an example being that you've got a house fire in Hull House, as an example, that would generally get 2 fire engines rolling up to it. That will get 2 fire engines rolling up to it today. And the 4th of September, it will still get 2 fire engines rolling up to it. They'll just be coming from a different station. Now, remember, one of the things that I think you need to kind of look at, one of the removal of that appliance from Hamilton's, I say, Steve, was based on that risk piece. So ultimately, what it looked at specifically towards the end of it was, if I remove from a multi-pump station, which is a pump with a fire engine with more than 1 fire engine in it, if I take that second one away, where is my response coming from? And where is the limit? How can I limit that risk as much as I possibly can do? So you've got the road network has significantly changed, as you'll very much be aware. You've got Wraith Interchange, which is just down the road from us, and I'm using this as an example just now as well, but you've got Wraith Interchange down there. If you've got Hamilton turning out to a fire in, again, Burnbank, Hull House, that kind of area, then generally they'll go along and up onto East Kilbride Expressway. By the time that Hamilton got onto that and got up into Hull House and Burnbank, I would very much expect that Bellshill or one of the other surrounding stations are going to be right at the back of it. And remembering the fact that when we mobilise and we turn up in the first instance, generally the first few minutes is taken up by gathering the information prior to, I suppose, moving into some sort of a response. So again, about gathering the information from the occupiers or people within, is there any risks, etc., and then deploying personnel to deal with whatever type of incident that is. So, as I say, I fully expect that would be right at the back of it anyway. Maybe sec. Yeah. I think probably just for a wider Lanarkshire context and South Lanarkshire context and the kind of changes that's ahead of us, probably just to put these on your radar and make you aware of them. But there is also a high reach strategy which running alongside this. That high reach strategy talks about high reach appliances. So ultimately, if you'll have like a kind of fire engine currently within Clydesville, which has also got a high reach capability attached to it. So that's a kind of Cambus Lang area. Removed, so they're changing from 26 high reach appliances, or the kind of combination appliances which I've just described there, which will be able to do firefighting but will also do the high reach element of it, and that's reducing to 16. But they are then dedicated appliances that will be being replaced by, whereas the kind of combination appliance have got limitations. The high reach dedicated appliance haven't, and are far more useful. I suppose that 26 to 16 sounds quite a significant number. Again, probably to add some context to it, I'm 27 years in the fire brigade currently, and I've used it for a rescue once. I've used the high reach for a rescue on one occasion. All other occasions it's used generally for a water tower, as in being able to get above a fire and projecting water downways, or as an observation platform, i.e. having a look at something from a kind of bird's eye view, if you like. So generally that's what they're kind of used for. And the other part of that is that we have got one which is now dedicated, which is along in Castlemilk, which borders the Clydesmill area anyway. And the final part for me, if you'll indulge me, Chair, and then I'm happy to open to any questions, but the Lead Hills community, so there's a volunteer station in Lead Hills currently. That has now gone to a public consultation on the future of Lead Hills Fire Station. Rationale behind that is that we've not been able to get a crew up there and have it available to us since 2015. So it is going to a public consultation with two options, one of which is re-establish the unit and be able to work through some of the difficulties that we have had in the past with that, achieving a response in essence, or indeed going to a closure, and that will go to public consultation currently. I probably should have mentioned that when we were talking through the removal of appliances. It is a temporary measure, I know I mentioned that, but any future measures or any removal, full removal of appliances from station will need to go to a full public consultation piece. So it's not as if that's going to be taken out and you'll not know about it, if you like. And happy to pause there, Chair, and take any questions.
Comments, Councillor McLaughlin. David.
Thanks, Chair. Jim, as you know, I've already had prior notice of these types of discussions last week at the Safer South Lanarkshire Board. It was brought to us as a verbal update, just as it's been today. And while I heard what you had to say and accepting you've got a job to do, you've got to deliver this news. And there's no criticism of you or the service. There have been plenty very kind remarks been made up until this point. And I'm not going to propose to change making nice remarks, but I do feel it's my duty as a local councillor in this area to express my concerns here at this area committee about the reduction. You've given a good background as to what the contingency will be due to the temporary loss of one appliance in Hamilton. But, you know, when we spoke about it last week at Safer South Lanarkshire Board, like I said, it was an update you were providing to us, and at the board, we don't have, and likewise at this committee, we don't have any powers to say, no, you're not going to do that, or you're not going to, it's not, because it's matters taken way above your head, even you're the person delivering this news to us. But I need to make it clear, Chair, that I've got grave concerns about the reduction, and having heard Jim and saying that appliances can be deployed from Bellshill and Motherwell, and that's absolutely true. They can. You know, I've given an example, sort of in support of what you've suggested. Like, for example, if there's a fire in Blantyre, there's a chance that the Bellshill appliance could reach Blantyre before the Hamilton one would if it's coming down the Bogs Brae. What are you making a funny face for, Chair? No?
Right. No,
right, okay. So, quite a serious matter here, Chair. So that could happen. That's likely to happen in those circumstances. But not every fire is going to be in Blantyre. When you look at the size area, the community growth area in Hamilton, the amount of house building that's taking place, it's a community that's expanding dramatically. And when you listen to constituents and people making comments about, we're building all of these new houses, but what about schools? What about doctor surgeries? What about dentists? All these different other pieces of infrastructure that goes with a town. At the same time, there's a proposal to reduce 2 appliances down to 1. And again, Jim, this is no criticism of you. I know you and I respect you. You've got a job to do. But if the two appliances in Bells Hill are called out, unfortunately, to another situation in Holytown or wherever else it may be, you're not going to have that backup. Now, it was mentioned earlier that there's a lot fewer call-outs than there was before. And as you said, it'd be great if there was never any call-outs, and that'd be fantastic, because it means it would be no fires to attend and everybody would be safe. But in an unlikely event that it does happen, and the two appliances in Motherwell are utilised, the two appliances in Bells Hill are utilised, where is the backup going from Hamilton to get the two appliances to attend a fire? That's the dilemma that I've got, and it is a concern, and I'm voicing that concern here, Chair. As I said, I'm going to say it again, no apologise for repeating it. I know Jim, I know he's doing the best that he can. It's his job to deliver this. It's not his decision. This decision has been taken far above his head, and basically it boils down to the same situation as we as a local authority find ourselves in, having to make terrible cuts that we'd never thought we'd need to make due to the lack of funding that's coming from the government. And that's having a knock-on effect on communities and potentially the safety of communities if a fire appliance is lost within the Hamilton area. But I've got one question for Jim, and it was asked last week at the board meeting about the temporary measure. Can you elaborate a wee bit more again, Jim? I can't remember just exactly what temporary means, because I know that Stephen Gibson asked you the question. So a temporary removal of Hamilton, at what date or time would that proposed to come back to Hamilton? Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor, and thanks for the question. I suppose just taking your last point first there. So that temporary measure, as I say, the appliances will be, that second appliance will be removed from service on the 4th of September, or certainly around about that kind of period, once we've kind of managed through the finer details. There's no definitive on how long that will be ongoing for, and I think that's a positive, if I'm being honest with you. It may not sound it, but I think it allows us the opportunity to gather information and gather exactly how it's going to look and feel, and what the impact actually is, which we've mapped out. But ultimately, until we play this through, I don't suppose anybody's in a position to be able to make a judgment call on that. So I see that as a positive in that we will continuously monitor it. We'll certainly look at it from day one, and we'll take it on its merits. And ultimately, Councillor, if it doesn't work, then I'm sure it'll be very quickly apparent, but certainly something that we'll discuss within the service as well. So as I say, I see that as a positive, but I suppose to answer your question, I can't give you a definitive on exactly the kind of length of that. Just picking up on another couple of points that you kind of talked about there, the area is expanding. I think you're absolutely spot on with that. I think one of the things that we've tried to do and will continue to do is make sure that our response is available to us. So that UFAT, that unwanted fire alarm signals piece that I touched upon earlier on, that will absolutely free capacity up. So as an example, today, if there's a commercial property in Hamilton that is linked to that kind of smoke detection piece and linked into the kind of wider bit, then we would mobilise to that. Now, if you've then got a house fire which is overlaid on top of that, which say that both of them are in Burnbank as an example, but you've got the two of them in Burnbank, then ultimately the next response for that person for the house fire is coming from elsewhere. What we've tried to do, and what that unwanted fire alarm signals will do, is free up a bit of capacity. So ultimately we'll not be responding to as many calls as we would have had previously. I suppose the other point just to kind of pick up upon is that although Hamilton has got two pumps in there and has had, certainly for a number of years that I'm aware of, there is occasions across the board, because of the resourcing model that we have and the number of staff that we currently have, where we're not being able to resource all appliances. And when you overlay on top of that, some of the training can be done via the kind of strategic reserve element of it, and removing appliances for that kind of training piece ultimately can culminate on up to 11 appliances across the service that aren't available to us on a daily basis anyway. And I'm not saying that offsets your argument, but it hopefully provides you a wee bit more context.
Can I come back in, Chair?
Okay, David.
Yeah, I absolutely hear what you're saying, Jim. You know, that, like I said, it'd be great if we didn't have to have any call-outs, but the amount of call-outs, I can't say with a lot of authority how frequent or infrequent they are, but the chances of let me come back at a different angle, because your resources will be freed up more because of the new system you're working with. There are going to be more appliances available. But how often, if you think about how much in demand they are, how many call-outs a day they have, how many a week, the chances of them happening both at the same time are pretty remote. But when and if they do, because it's inevitable, we can never forecast when this is going to happen. But if resources are pulled from Bellshill or Motherwell or the adjoining locations, the backup that Hamilton would have got in those situations is going to come from further afield, which is a further delay in attending to whatever the incident may be. So, Chair, I listened to Jim. Jim's the expert. The fire service people are the expert. I'm sure they've done all their studies. But me as a lay person and as a local councillor, I just want it in record, Chair, and to minute it that I still have concerns. But Jim, please respond to that if you can, if you feel you need to, if you can.
Yep. So thanks again just for that subsequent part, Councillor. I think one of the things that we touched upon during the previous agenda item was the reduction, and that kind of positive reduction from within Chrissy's report. So, I mean, we are making inroads as far as that that education piece is concerned. That is making an absolute difference. I think we talked at the other bit that I kind of talked about as well was the fact that fires weren't, in not all occasions, unfortunately, but we are catching them at an earlier stage because of the detection that we have in. So ultimately, people are being given that warning rather than, on most occasions, receiving that warning prior to it getting to the kind of serious state that people would be hurting and unfortunately, in some occasions, killed. So that reduction piece is absolutely working. That education piece is absolutely working. I think your point's well made as far as the number of appliances that are the number of fire engines that are dotted around, and this is a removal of one in the South Lanarkshire area. Ultimately, we have got coverage, and that coverage that you're talking about, or that example that you're talking about, could play out at any point, regardless of where we are. So as an example, if Bellshill's got something ongoing and Hamilton end up over in Bellshill and you get something in Hamilton, then your response is coming from nearby anyway. So I suppose one of the beauties of it is that you have got that Scottish service now where they're kind of bordering and be able to kind of call on that immediate response. And if there is issues in there, and this is the part that I'll continue to do locally as well, if I see gaps in there or if our control room sees gaps in there, then we can move appliances accordingly and do on a regular basis. So as an example, Hamilton's at a house fire and they're going to be detained for the space of like an hour and a half or whatever it may well be. We have got the capacity to move a second appliance from East Kilbride, bring appliances from elsewhere to stand by in Hamilton and then provide that immediate response should the need arise. So hopefully that gives you some sort of context just surrounding that.
It does, Jim. It does give me some reassurance and I appreciate that. But less is never better, and I'll be repeating myself if I say it anymore. So, but I appreciate your response. Thanks very much, and thanks, Chair.
Thanks, David. Your concerns are noted. Now, Councillor Bert Thompson.
Hello, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear us? Right, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank David for his contribution. He's making a valid point. We're community, our settlement's growing, houses, people come into it, etc. So we probably need a service more. It's like everything else in life. When you have something, you take it away. People are not comfortable with something being taken away. There's a trepidation, a realistic fear. How do we say to the public? They'll just see us as it's a service being reduced again with all the cuts, etc. And they'll believe, and I know we've been reassured there, that things are not be what they should be or as good as they could be. I know it's only temporarily by the sound of it, and we've got contingency plans to bring appliances in, but the public will look at this and think there's something else being reduced. you know, and they'll have a fear of that, I would imagine, because sometimes things that might not happen, but the fear of it happening is just as bad. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Maureen Devlin.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for your presentation, Jim, earlier. And this is no reflection on you at all. My brother served in the fire service for 30 years, so I'm well aware of what's involved here. And I hope I don't repeat anything that Davy has asked earlier, because it was really important with what he's saying. But I think it should be flagged up the fact that Hamilton covers the M74 corridor. We cover a whole host of things, all the road right down to the Lead Hills, I'm led to believe. So therefore, if you do, and further on down into Douglas, what I'm really looking for now, it came up at the Community Council last night, and this is just local members. They discovered they're going to lose in the Plies, and that's in Bothwell. And one had it wasn't actually a house fire, it was a car that was setting fire at their home. They were stuck in the house, and if it hadn't have been for the fact, and it was a fire officer that said to them, if it hadn't been Hamilton, there was a major possibility they would have perished in that house because they had no access to get out. So that was that side of it all. But I was just wondering, I know you talk about different stations in different areas. Is there any way across the whole of Lanarkshire we could get all the stations that are still operating with a number of appliances, so that at least we've got a geographical map of where things are within Lanarkshire? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's absolutely no problem. Again, our website will provide the details of where we can cover Lanarkshire, or South Lanarkshire wise. But you're absolutely spot on to suggest it runs as far down as Lead Hills and Douglas and Abington and Biggar, etc., etc. I think that M74 corridor piece you touched upon, and again, of value that we have got stations down that corridor, being Abington, Douglas. I've not got to sit here and tell you all is well with the world at this moment in time, because we have got issues as far as availability is concerned, daytime generally, because people are generally, whereas in the past people would normally live and work, and more importantly work within their local community, they're travelling further afield for work, which is causing us that problem. The man sitting to my right hand side here was tasked with a piece of work pretty much about 5 minutes after I arrived in the area, which was working through some of that. That is now, there is a strategy developed for increasing that availability piece, which again, I'm happy to kind of provide the finer details to that, or that to you off table, because there is quite a bit of detail in there. But I suppose probably just for a bit of comfort, it is an area of business that we're focused on. It is an area that we're coming up with particular actions for particular stations, because the issues aren't always the same. It's about availability, retention, recruitment. It's generally three main themes, but not focused on across all the stations. So it is a piece of work that's ongoing. And I think the other part that I kind of touched upon earlier slightly plays into this, as far as if there is areas that I'm not content with and not comfortable with on a daily basis being left empty, then it is areas that I can push resources into, and that's a national response that we have. And it is a flexible model that allows me to be able to put appliances and fire engines at the point of need and the point of concern. So hopefully that answers your question. I can certainly provide that information that you asked for, Councillor.
Thanks. No, it does. It still doesn't remove the concerns that I have. And I fully appreciate the financial constraints that you're under, because we deal with them every day in here. So, but no, thank you. And any information would be greatly appreciated, because it does help when we're out in community council meetings and they're asking questions and we don't have the answers. But if I can provide them with the answers, that helps to alleviate their concerns as well. Thanks.
Councillor McCreary. Kenny.
Thank you. I guess my questions have probably already been asked, to be honest, in the whole. But I do have one outstanding. Could I ask the officers a bit about temporary? What does that mean, really? Does it mean it's a bit of a test to see if it works? And if that is the case, can we not just put one of the fire engines to one side during the test period and say, well, we're only going to use that if we need it. Let's see if we can get by with one. Or maybe I've got the whole idea of temporary wrong. That's my question, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks. Jim?
Thanks again, Chair. And thanks, Councillor, for the question. I think from a temporary perspective, I think that what that basically means to us is that based on the information and the data that we've worked to currently, the least impact across South Lanarkshire is to remove Hamilton Second Appliance. And ultimately there will be a small impact to that, but it is minimal given the fact that that's the station with the data behind it. And what we talked about earlier on was the fact that the reason that the data was gathered and the type of data that we're utilising is based on a 2-pump station removing its second appliance, and where we're likely to get that second appliance from, being Bellshill, as I used as an example, being a few minutes up the road, etc. So that was the rationale behind the stations that's identified. The temporary measure is exactly as I discussed with Councillor McLachlan earlier. I suppose it's about not rushing at the gates, but certainly taking a step that we think is safe at this moment in time. But ultimately that will be looked at and reflected upon on a daily basis. And if there is issues within that, then absolutely, then we can react to that very, very quickly. And the final point, I suppose, is just to provide you with that level of comfort that I can't remove full time, I can't remove any appliances from South Lanarkshire. I need to go through that full consultation piece. And that's certainly, if that is a decision that's taken further down the line, then that we're looking to keep, and I'm using this as an example, it's certainly as a temporary measure at this moment in time, but if we decide further down the line that based on the data and based on the reflective information that we have, that we've gathered on that daily basis, that there is or we can safely remove Hamilton's second pump, and then that needs to go to a full public consultation. That piece prior to me being able to do that. So again, hopefully gives you that level of comfort. But from a positive perspective, it will be absolutely evaluated on a daily basis. And if there is any issues that come to the fore, then they'll be addressed very, very quickly. Thanks.
Thanks for that.
I'm back again, Chair. Another question. Well, just to follow up, really. So my question really is, does the one you're taking away go somewhere else? Are they all going to go to a central spot? And if that's not the case, why not just keep it in the station and say, well, if all things go wrong, we can still use it? Sorry, was that clear?
Sorry, I missed the question here. Apologies.
So does the appliance that's being removed, does it go somewhere else off site, or are you going to keep it in the station? It would make sense to keep it in the station so that if things go completely wrong and there's some catastrophe somewhere, it's still there and available if you need it.
Yeah, so the appliance will be removed from the station, but ultimately, if we decide on the 5th of September that there's something happened in the 4th of September, which is catastrophic, then it would allow me to be able to call upon that appliance and put it back into Hamilton again. So it's not being disbanded on the 4th of September. It's been temporarily withdrawn, and as I say, that kind of evaluation piece will be ongoing.
Okay. Right, thanks for that, Jim. Thanks, Kenny. I'm bearing in mind the time here. I've got two other speakers, Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Chalmers. I know how interesting this is, but we've other items on the agenda as well. So can I ask Councillor Donnelly?
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 points to my question that I'm going to ask you. You mentioned consultations in the Lead Hills. To remove this in Hamilton, was there a consultation exercise with the community to find out if that was happening? As point 1. My second one is, do you have comfort details for us as councillors to be able to inform our constituents that their safety is still there, if that is the case? And the fire alarms, in people's houses, private and council housing. Do you feel that we've got enough of those installed, that people's not at risk as much as they were in the past? I'm just thinking about the vulnerable that are maybe in the house on their own, that kind of thing. So, thank you.
Jim?
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I'll take them just as you put them to me then. So I suppose the first part's around the consultation piece. The consultation for Lead Hills is a public consultation due to the fact it's going to be, well, potentially either stood back up as a station or ultimately removed from service. So that requires full consultation. I suppose from an organisational perspective, we've taken the decisions that we have based on the data that is available. So there is minimal impact in here. As I said to you earlier on, I live in this community, and I'm really, if I thought there was any concerns, I thought if I was worried about this and it was keeping me up at night, then I would absolutely tell you. I wouldn't be sitting here trying to tell you anything different. So I would absolutely be telling that. So that's based on the data and the information that we have available. And I think the next part for us is about gathering the information that stems from this. So what does it look like? How does it feel? Does it work? Is Hamilton the right appliance potentially moving forward? This is dependent on what future budgets look like, but is that the appliance that we may or that we could call upon to remove with the minimal amount of risk, or is that elsewhere? So that information will be gathered during that process. And as I said, please believe me when I tell you, it will be getting monitored on a daily basis. And if I've got any concerns at all, then I'll go back to it and I'll revisit it and I'll make sure that the organisation revisits it. That's incumbent upon myself. As far as the safety of the community is concerned, I think I talked about a bit earlier on as far as where the likely responses is going to come from. So Hamilton's first appliance will be there. The second appliance you'll still get. So the response model is the exact same. It's just coming from a different place. And also talked about the fact that if you look at a kind of dwelling house fire in Blantyre, Burnbank, Hill House, wherever along that kind of area, but you have got that road network which has changed, which means that Bells Hill will be right at the back of a Hamilton appliance. And ultimately, by the time that I've got there as an instant commander and gathered the information that I require, then that appliance will be ready to deploy the resources that are available to us. So hopefully that assists with that. The linked alarms piece, I think, is an absolute valuable question. So have we got enough coverage for across the Hamilton area and beyond across the full of Scotland? No, because my figures still tell me that it is like 75-80% coverage, 85% coverage along the kind of figures. I don't want to see them at that. I want to see them at 100%. So it's incumbent amongst all of us and on all of us to send that message and the importance of them. And I can't overemphasise the importance of that linked alarm, given the early warning that I touched on earlier on with a fire in your kitchen and how far you may be away from that kitchen. And if you're in like a 2 up, 2 down house, you may not hear that alarm in the kitchen, but you will do if they're linked, because the one outside your bedroom door will be going off. So I think there's as a part for me. The vulnerable piece, again, when I come in, we carry out home fire safety visits. I know you'll be aware of these anyway, but on a regular basis. In fact, I think Chris talked about certainly kind of 2 per day over the last year across the Hamilton area. That's significant. So that's a number of households, 650 odds, I believe, was the figure that Chris came up with. But that's basically 2 properties per year that are getting that visit. One of the things that I focused upon, because I felt as if we were very much, I suppose, sheep dipping and providing a home fire safety visit to a lot of people that I suppose their houses get less chance of going on fire than what my own has. So it was more about focusing on that vulnerable piece that you talked about and focusing on the medium to high risk. I'm not saying for a second that you're walking away from other people. There is information that we will give. There is support we will give. We will carry out visits in certain circumstances to that low risk. But our priority at this moment in time is undoubtedly medium and high risk, because that's where our fire deaths are coming from and where our fires are coming from. And that piece that we've built up within the local community currently is working really, really well. Tommy Kay, who's a group commander that sits underneath me and is responsible for that community safety element of it, was tasked pretty much on day dot when he arrived with focusing on the high risk. And as I say, not walking away from the low medium risk, but identifying where we're getting these referrals from. So social work, they're obvious places, Social work were local housing associations, your local authority housing, your NHS, your ambulance service. And it was about getting myself into a process that I was really, really comfortable with, that every person at risk that comes across one of the particular organisations is coming its way to me. And that's the bit that I didn't have that comfort back in September. I now have that comfort. So hopefully that helps. I say the linked alarms piece, I want to get to 100%. There is occasions, as you'll be aware, that we do install them. And again, I'd love to do that across the board, but the financial element of it doesn't allow. But what it does do is allows me to have the autonomy to identify that medium and high risk individuals. And if they've not got detection in there, then we will fit the linked alarms. So they are available depending on circumstances to us as well. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, Mary. Thanks.
Just round this table, I got the alarms installed in my house. How many sitting round this table got them installed? And are they safe?
Yep. So compulsory from February this year.
This year, I was done last year, so I would just take the opportunity.
Could I just say quickly on the linked alarms, and you said install them, and I know the housing department installed them, but what was brought to my attention, elderly people with the linked alarms weren't getting a remote control with them, so they couldn't turn it off. And someone are saying, I'll need to wait till my son comes to turn it off. So there's ones that you're installing have the remote control to turn them off.
Thanks for the question. That's the first question of the day that I've not been able to answer, so thank you for that. Chris, I don't know if you can answer that. We can certainly get an answer for you, but I'm not...
They reset after a certain period of time.
But it turns out they couldn't see, I'll just need the home help candidate because she's not insured. So they do need to end up for their son or daughter to come. And instead of just having the remote control for them to do it.
Sorry, I now know. I now understand the question. So you can't turn them off. The way of resetting them is that if you press the button and hold it in, I think it's 20 seconds or something like that, it'll reset the system. But only reset the system until a point when it's clear. So if there's still like smoke or residual smoke for cooking or whatever it may well be that's been picked up, if that's still there, then it'll just go back off again.
Okay. I'd just like to thank you, Jim and Chris, for that quite extensive report on that and for taking the questions in that. So we've other business to move on to. Right. Would you like to just leave the meeting, obviously? Right, thanks very much for your time. Okay, cheers. I just apologise to you ladies for waiting there. Obviously, it's very interesting reports. We're going to the next item of business, which is Quarter Primary and Nursery School, Scotland, Education Scotland report. Okay, thanks. Take care.
Thank you, Chair. Would it be possible to do David Livingston, item 5 first? Linda, just due to the time, due to unforeseen circumstances, needs to go a wee bit earlier.
That's
Is
fine.
that okay? So if I do item 5 first, would that be okay? Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors. I think most of you know me from previous area committee meetings, but for those of you that don't, I'm Laura Mitchell. I'm the Quality Improvement Officer for David Livingston Memorial Primary School and Nursery Class. I'm delighted to be here today with the head teacher, Mrs Linda Callender, to advise members on the outcome of the school's recent HMI inspection. And today we're asking you to know the inspection report as part of this report. Education Scotland undertook a full model inspection on the quality of educational provision within David Livingstone Memorial Primary School and Nursery Class week beginning the 20th of February 2023, with the report being published on Education Scotland's website on the 16th of May 2023. The full model inspection focuses on 4 quality indicators from how good is our school and how good is our early learning and childcare. These for the school are 1.3 leadership of change, 2.3 learning, teaching and assessment, 3.2 raising attainment and achievement, and 3.3 ensuring wellbeing, equality and inclusion. For the nursery, the quality indicators are 1.1 leadership of change, 2.3 learning, teaching and assessment, 3.2 securing children's progress, and 3.3 ensuring wellbeing, equality and inclusion. The school and nursery receive gradings for each of these indicators, as well as a more detailed written report of findings, which highlights particular strengths and areas for continued improvement. I'm delighted to inform you that David Livingstone Memorial Primary School and Nursery Class were evaluated as being very good for all quality indicators for both the school and for the nursery. These grades are also reflective of the school's own self-evaluation. This was a very well-deserved and a very positive result for David Livingstone Memorial Primary School and Nursery Class. An evaluation of very good indicates that major strengths have been identified in the school's work and there are very few areas for improvement. It also represents a high standard of provision for all children and young people. For leadership of change to be cited as very good provides the local authority and pupils and families a high degree of confidence about the capacity of the school to continue to improve. David Livingstone Memorial Primary School and Nursery Class have also had an area of practice highlighted as worth sharing nationally as part of the inspection process. This can be read in more detail in the summary of inspection findings, and Linda will talk to you a little more about this shortly, along with the other strengths identified within the report. David Livingstone Memorial Primary School and Nursery Class is located in the town of Blantyre, South Lanarkshire. At the time of inspection, the school had 260 children organised into 10 classes. The nursery was registered for 23 children aged from 3 to 5 years. At the time of inspection, it was at capacity. All children received their 1,140 hours entitlement in terms of their early learning and childcare, and almost all attend for 5 days a week from 9 AM to 3 PM. And the nursery operates term time only. The majority of children live in the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation deciles 1 to 3. More than a third of children are entitled to free school meals. This number has increased sharply since the COVID-19 pandemic. The school received £62,640 in pupil equity funding in 2023 to narrow the poverty-related attainment gap. The head teacher has been in post since August 2016. She is supported by the equivalent of 1 deputy head teacher and 1 principal teacher, although 3 staff share these posts. The 2 areas for development noted by Education Scotland team had already been identified by the head teacher and her team as part of their own school self-evaluation. The school are already working on the identified areas for continued improvement, and these are central to the school's improvement plan. The head teacher has clear plans in place to support high quality learning and teaching and to continue to raise attainment for all learners. As Quality Improvement Officer for the school, I will continue to work with the school to support their plans for improvement. Education Scotland have intimated that they are confident that the school will be able to take forward the areas for improvement and will make no further visits in connection with this report. I will now pass to Linda, who will provide a bit more detail around the inspection, including the key strengths identified by Education Scotland.
Good afternoon, councillors, and thank you for changing the agenda. My son's had an accident at school, so I need to get home as quickly as possible. The grandpa's on the way now. So thank you very much. Education Scotland noted 5 key areas, 5 key strengths for the school, and these were as follows. The first one was children who are friendly, caring and motivated to learn across both the school and the nursery. They work well together, support one another and demonstrate the school values well. They feel happy, safe and included in decisions about school life. As an establishment, we work hard to collaborate, to promote collaborative working between children of all stages through, for example, buddying and leadership opportunities such as positive play leaders, paired readers and junior librarians. Children of all stages are also part of school committees such as our Pupil Council, our Fair Trade Committee and our Eco Committee, and they lead events and initiatives within the school. The second key strength that was noted, and this is quite embarrassing, is the highly effective leadership of the head teacher. That shouldn't be me that's reading that out, that should be Laura, but never mind. Says she promotes a strong sense of teamwork with everyone involved in progressing the work of the school and the nursery. She is ably supported by the deputy head teachers and principal teachers. Within our establishment, staff at all levels feel valued members of our whole school and nursery team, and they all know that their opinions and ideas are valued. The third strength was that staff worked well together to create a calm, inclusive atmosphere across the school and nursery. They create welcoming, nurturing learning environments where children and adults are respectful and kind. The warm and welcoming ethos that exists within our school and nursery is one of the first things that any visitors to our establishment comment on. Across our establishment, everyone is very tolerant and respectful of one another's needs. As a result, children, staff and families feel well supported and nurtured. The fourth key strength was that the head teacher, senior leaders, teachers and practitioners use a wide range of information very effectively to ensure that all children make progress in their learning. Over time, staff at all levels within the establishment have become much better at using data and observations to inform improvement. As a result, we're all now highly skilled at planning clear and effective next steps for our children to ensure that they continue to make progress in their learning. And the final strength that was noted was the relentless focus on improving outcomes for children, particularly in literacy and English. As a whole staff team, we've worked hard year on year to improve children's attainment in reading, writing and listening and talking, with most children now achieving expected curriculum for excellence levels in all three organisers. As Laura said, Education Scotland also felt that it was an area of practice that was worthy of sharing more widely, this being the successful approach that teaching and support staff take to provide highly effective nurture support for targeted groups of children. This well-established provision is very effectively led by my principal teacher and allows children to develop increased social skills and emotional literacy, not just within our own nurture setting, but also in their own classes. As a school community, we're absolutely delighted with the findings of Education Scotland, especially as they're aligned to our own self-evaluation. We're also confident that working as a whole staff team, we have the capacity to continually improve so that every child in our care at David Livingstone Memorial Primary School and Nursery class has every opportunity to achieve his or her full potential. Thank you.
Sorry. Thanks for that, Linda. Have we any questions or comments? I see Councillor Chalmers. Maureen.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Linda. I won't keep you. It's just to say thank you very much for being that effective leadership, providing that effective leadership as the head teacher and for leading your team in the work you do. And just again to note that creating that welcoming, nurturing learning environment. And I'm really pleased that that's been recognised at a national level. And if you just indulge me, Chair, I'm conscious that Linda probably won't be here for the next item and the case study around the PB work for David Livingstone. There's a case study there, and to thank you for that work as well. And I'm really pleased again that that work's going to be recognised, hopefully, at national level. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that. Bert Thompson. Councillor Thompson.
School being in my area, it's really encouraging, and to thank the head teacher, and of course I should pass her thanks on to her mother-in-law who was my teacher at primary school, so thanks very much, Sharon. I'll keep you.
Okay, thanks for that, Bert. Councillor Mary Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I would also like to give my congratulations to the school. When I was chair last time around of the Hamilton Area Committee, we were seeing these reports coming forward, which was satisfactory, good on the school reports, but it is just taking my breath away that I'm actually seeing a report with very good on it. And I know the work that must have went in to get those results for the kids. And I'd also like to say, as South Lanarkshire is a fair trade council, and we've got towns in South Lanarkshire that are fair trade towns, I'm delighted to see the Fair Trade Committee in the school. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Mary. No further comments, questions. Okay, thanks very much for your report. Oh, sorry. Mo?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'd like to congratulate Linda for her absolutely excellent report. It's called David Livingston Primary was the local primary school for the area where I worked, and I've seen the way it's gone from strength to strength in the school. And I'm just really pleased to see that Blantyre, as usual, is punching above its weight.
That's the last one. Okay. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, thanks very much for that report. And if you wish to go, now everything's okay with your son? Okay. And now item 4. Education Scotland report, quarter primary school and nursery classes. Laura?
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to share with you another good news story, and this one is for quarter primary school and nursery class. I'm also the Quality Improvement Officer for the school and nursery, and I'm delighted to be here with Sharon Baucus, our head teacher, to advise members of the outcome of their recent HMI inspection. And we're asking you to know the Education Scotland report on that today. So Education Scotland undertook a short inspection model on the quality of educational provision within quarter primary school and nursery class on the week beginning the 17th of April 2023, with the report being published on the 16th of May 2023. The short model inspection focuses on 2 quality indicators from how good is our school and how good is our early learning and childcare. For the school, these are 2.3, learning, teaching and assessment, and 3.2, raising attainment and achievement. And for the nursery, they are 2.3, learning, teaching and assessment, and 3.2, securing children's progress. The school and nursery receive gradings for each of these indicators, as well as a more detailed written report of findings, which highlights the particular strengths and areas for continued improvement. I'm delighted to inform you that quarter primary school and nursery class were evaluated as good for all quality indicators. These grades are also reflective of the school's own self-evaluation. This was a well-deserved and positive result for quarter primary school and nursery class. An evaluation of good indicates that there are important strengths have been identified in the school's work, alongside some areas for improvement. Sharon will talk you through these important strengths shortly. Quarter primary school and nursery class is situated in the village of Quarter, an accessible rural area in Hamilton. At the time of inspection, 6 to 8 children attended the school across 1 composite and 2 multi-composite classes. The number of children at each stage varies and is relatively small. 17 children aged 3 to 5 attended the nursery class at the time of inspection. And all children attending the nursery accessed their 1,140 hours, with almost all children who attend both the nursery and the school live in the village and their surrounding farms. The majority of children live in Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation deciles 5 and 6, and 12% of children are entitled to free school meals. The school received £9,720 in pupil equity funding for 22-23 to narrow the poverty-related attainment gap, and Sharon has been in post since September 2019. The 2 areas of development noted by the Education Scotland team had already been identified, like David Livingston, by the head teacher and the school as part of their own self-evaluation. The school are already working on the identified areas for continued improvement, and again, these are central to the school's improvement plan. The head teacher has clear plans in place to support high quality learning and teaching and to continue to raise attainment for all learners. And as Quality Improvement Officer for the school, I will again continue to work with the school to support their plans for improvement. Education Scotland have intimated that they are confident that the school will be able to take forward the areas for improvement and will make no further visits in connection with this report. I'm now delighted to pass to Sharon, who will give a bit more detail around the inspection, including the key strengths identified by Education Scotland. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, Laura, and good afternoon, councillors. Our team of inspectors were very positive about our school and nursery, and it was a really successful outcome and exactly where we as a school think we are through our self-evaluation. The inspection team found the following strengths in our schools and nurseries work. Number 1 was children learn in a nurturing environment where everyone is respected, valued and included in the life of the school. They are polite, kind, caring and ensure everyone is included at their school. As a school community last year, we updated our school vision and values, which we now call our quarter code. We are safe, kind, hardworking, inclusive, and we have fun. Children and adults all adhere to these values and they are rewarded weekly at our assembly and given Code Cracker of the Week for all classes in nursery. House points are also given to the children who are following these across the school and the nursery day. This language is embedded throughout our school and nursery community. All of our pupils and staff are in a pupil voice committee where we use our self-evaluation to improve our school outcomes. Our primary 7 pupils take on responsibilities as house and vice captains and playground pals and buddies to our younger pupils. Our second strength identified, again, a little embarrassing. Led effectively by the head teacher, the nursery and school team have continued to prioritise children's learning and wellbeing during periods of change. And something that was very personal to me, having only joined the school in September 2019, and pretty soon after that having a COVID pandemic where we had to navigate through this, was a huge challenge for all head teachers, including myself. I had to ensure that children and staff were very clear on the school priorities and how we could support our school community moving forward. We had a very positive response from our parents and carers and pupils through the lockdown periods, and we continued to have high quality learning experiences. Number 3, children's achievements are effectively recognised and celebrated throughout the school and nursery class. Children are valued members of their school community. Pupil voice is very strong in our school. We celebrate wider achievements every day and every week. And on a Friday, children like to bring their medals and trophies and share that with the wider school community and also developing skills. They are displayed in the class achievement boards in our hall and we record lots of skills that they have been learning throughout. The last one to share with you as they said, children's experiences are enriched through the highly effective use of technology across the primary school. And you may want to look out for us in the Glasgow Times. There's a feature for that in the Glasgow Times, which I'm very proud of. Through lockdown, staff engaged in ICT professional learning to enhance digital home learning. Staff planned learning using Google Classroom, and children from primary 1 to 7 learned how to access Google Slides, Google Docs, the use of Jamboards to enhance their learning. Pupils have continued to develop these skills through all areas of their learning, and it was evident during the inspection visit that these skills were fully embedded in their learning. I'm very proud of this report as a fairly new head teacher in South Lanarkshire, and I'll continue to do my best to take things forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Sharon. Any questions or comments? I see Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thank you for that report. Just to really welcome it, and a big congratulations to Sharon and the rest of the staff at the school. There's clearly lots of good work going on, and it's important that is recognise, and as well to note the commitment to continued improvement as with the other report, saying that the areas have already been incorporated into the schools planning. So that's very, very positive to see. So just a big well done to the staff, and I hope many of the good things which are raised in this report can be incorporated into other schools in South Lanarkshire. So thank you and congratulations to all the staff, and of course the pupils as well for their engagement.
Thanks for that, Councillor Clark. Councillor Carmichael.
Thanks, Chair. Over the years, I have worked very closely with Quarter Primary School, even when it was the old school, the time before it was modernised. Yeah. When I received a copy of the report, I sent my congratulations to Sharon and her team. Fantastic report, and again, I will just reiterate and say, well done, and keep up the good work. Take care.
Thanks for that, Councillor Carmichael. Councillor Leslie MacDonald.
Thanks, Chair. I'm so glad I have a 3:30 call to take. However, I've managed to bat it away for at least 5 minutes because I didn't want to disappear without thanking you for everything that you've done. I knew the previous head teacher, or head teachers indeed, and just want to say you've done a wonderful job, and please pass on our congratulations to all members of staff and to the children in particular, because they must be feeling very, very proud. Thank you again. Well done. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Okay. And item 6, education report, participatory budget. Laura. Okay, you're excused. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Chair. I think everybody will be fed up listening to me this afternoon. It's one report after the other. So I'm conscious of time, so I'll try and make this one as quick as possible because I know other folk have got places to be. So delighted to be here today to give you an update on participatory budgeting for education resources. And again, we're asking you to note this report today. So following the consultation and voting process, as reported at the last area committee, schools have progressed with their spend to ensure the minimum 5% input towards participatory budgeting was spent in full by the end of March 2023. I'm delighted to share David Livingstone Memorial Primary School's participatory budgeting work as an example of good practice, which you can see in Appendix 1 and is attached as a PDF. Unfortunately, Linda's had to go, but I will talk to the report in her absence. This case study illustrates the school's PB journey this session. David Livingstone Memorial Primary School is a particularly good example as 91% of pupils voted as part of the process. This demonstrates the value and commitment David Livingstone Memorial Primary School have with regards to PB and pupil voice. The voice from stakeholders was very much about supporting families affected by poverty with issues around the cost of the school day. Choices for spend included widening access to extracurricular experiences, providing homework packs, buying items to support the school's Rake and Take initiative, which is a uniform recycling initiative, and widening access to school trips. Widening access to extracurricular clubs won the vote in the end, and it's hoped that pupil wellbeing and attendance and engagement of pupils affected by poverty at after-school clubs will improve as a result of this spend and improvement work. A further impact section will be added to this case study at the end of the academic year to show the benefit this activity has had for our most vulnerable learners. In terms of an update of the wider Hamilton area and the rest of our South Lanarkshire schools, PB is now fully embedded in the work of SLC schools through our pupil equity funding. Schools are continuing to allocate a minimum of the 5% of their pupil equity fund to be subject to PB year on year. Schools received updated guidance on this at the PEF Head Teacher and Equity Lead information session on the 19th of May, and we have got further optional PB training planned for August for schools who have new PB leads or feel they need a refresh on the expectations around this. SLC Schools PB work continues to be recognised nationally as an example of good practice. Several local authorities have approached us for guidance and support in this area, as South Lanarkshire Council are the only local authority in Scotland to have dedicated as much as 5% of pupil equity funding from all schools. It has therefore been agreed by the Chief Executive that a COSLA award application be submitted. This was submitted at the end of May to showcase the work of our schools in this area. We're incredibly proud of the work that our schools have done with PB over the past couple of years, and hopefully we will do well with the award application, which is currently in progress. Happy now to take any questions or comments. Thanks.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Mary Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to welcome this report. I think it's absolutely amazing the work the kids have put in. I have witnessed it within some of the schools I represent in my area. I think the school here that is an exemplary is absolutely amazing, the work that they've put in order to achieve the results that they've achieved. And also the return of over 90% participated in the participatory budget and voting. We don't even get that at elections. So, we might be able to look to them to be young up-and-coming politicians of the future. I know they are the ones I heard in St Mark's and other schools when they gave me their presentation. It was just blow away stuff. So yeah, it's all there in the report, and power to their elbow, and it's great that it is now embedded within South Lanarkshire Council education setup, that participatory budgeting is here to stay. Thank you.
Mary, Laura.
Thank you, Councillor. I just wanted to come in there and say that I think the fact that all our schools have been working on participatory budgeting has actually increased awareness around participatory budgeting. And I know we've been in education resources have been engaging with the community team as well around PB, around other areas of the council out with education. And I suppose the hope is that if pupils are involved in that in their schools, then there might be more community engagement and PB activity throughout the rest of the council. So that's a hope for the future.
Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, Sharon and Laura, thanks very much for your contribution. Sorry again for the delay there with the report, okay? So you go. Thank you. Item 7, play scheme grant applications. The purpose to approve 2 play scheme grants detailed at section 2.1. Are any? Do we agree to approve? Seconded? Thank you. Item 8, community grant community grant applications, pages 27 to 30. Purpose to approve 10 community grade grants detailed at section 2.1. Does the committee agree to award the amounts recommended? 10 applications. Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hello, Bert.
Hi, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, just wondering if possible, and with the kindness of the committee, is the one in High Blantyre. It's an area of deprivation. The staff actually do a lot of hours. They don't claim any payment for. They also organise a national or sort of local fun day, gala day as such. And I was wondering if any possibility we could maybe increase it to about 600. I think about 200 more. That would be, if my figures are right. Would that be possible to consider that? Thank you.
We've lost them. Oh, it must be the Blantyre. Hyber Cyber Youth Club project. Oh, they're getting 1,000. What grant is it?
As a Hyber Cyper and High Blantyre, I think they put in for 1,000. I think they're awarded 400, but you'd maybe double check the figures, Chair.
On you go.
Councillor Donnelly.
Councillor Donnelly.
What's Bert proposing?
An extra £200.
250.
250.
Do we have a seconder?
Do you have a seconder for Bert's proposal? Okay. It's a
Do we
seconder.
have a proposer and seconder for the recommendation on the report, or is it the committee?
Right. I'm proposing the recommendation and the report. Seconded.
Okay, so we'll need to go to a vote.
We'll go to a vote.
Okay, Chair, we're going to, can I just confirm, first of all, is the committee agreed with the recommendations for every other grant on the report except item E?
Okay, we all
Yep.
agreed in all other grants.
Okay,
Right.
so we're going to go for a vote for applicant E, which is the Hyber Cyber Youth Project in Blantyre. The motion will be the recommendation in the report of £350, which was proposed by Councillor Falconer and seconded by Councillor Devlin. The amendment was proposed by Councillor Thompson, was to increase the amount to £600, and that was seconded by Councillor Razak. So I'm just going to launch the vote, and members can. Sorry, if you bear with us for one moment. Okay, so that should now be on your screens. If members could now place their vote. So that's the Okay, I'll just give another few moments. We're not aware of any technical issues. Okay, we're just waiting on a couple of more votes. Just waiting on one more vote, and as I say, we're not aware of any technical issues. Okay. Can you check the phone? Okay, as I say, we're not aware of any technical issues, so on that basis, we are going to just close the vote. Okay, I can see that 5 members voted for the motion, 7 members voted for the amendment. There were no abstentions. The amendment is therefore declared carried. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Thanks for that. 7-5. Okay. On to item 9, urgent business. There's no urgent business I'm notified of. Just thank you all for your attendance. Close the meeting.